Hello, and thanks for tuning in. So I've ordered a bunch of components for the coolant system for the engine bay. Unfortunately, I'm waiting on delivery. So in this episode, I'm going to take a break from the brakes and fit some brakes, but not any old brakes. As the engine's from an R36, I'm putting in brakes from an R36. So I'll end up with 3 45mm diameter rotors on the front and 3 10 diameter rotors on the rear. I'll also show you guys my little sneaky secret that I put under the bonnet. And as always, please like, share and subscribe, as it will help the channel. All right, let's do this. So after a morning of replacing my MIG welding torch cable because my dog chewed it, I'm back on the Beetle. To be able to install different calipers, it requires to change the steering knuckles from the standard ones here to the 1.8 turbo versions here on the left. It's a pretty straightforward process. You just unbolt the old ones and put on the new ones. For comparison, here's the original front disc on the right, and I'm just going to overlay it on the R36 version, and you can see there's a marked difference in the diameter. And here's the wheel hub I'm going to be using. It's a made-to-order part, but it directly fits to the Beetle and allows the bolt pattern of 5x112 PCD. Off camera, I used a shop press to install the hub and then installed the hub unit onto the control arm. So here's the R36 Passat front disc I was planning to use, but when I went to go fit it on the hub, I found there was no clearance behind mounting tabs where the caliper would go. So I ended up having to go for this Audi version, which is not as deep, but exactly the same diameter, so it fitted the bill perfectly. So after mounting the disc to the hub and mocking up the location of the R36 caliper on the disc, I came up with a drawing like this, which showed all the hole dimensions and the distances needed in order for me to manufacture a bracket. So using those dimensions, I transferred them to Fusion 360, which is actually available for free for personal use. And so I knew it was going to be made up of 3 10mm layers, so I based my drawing on that. So here's the piece that fits onto the Beetle. This is an intermediate connector, and this is the piece that fits onto the caliper. So in order to test this would fit, I sent this to a 3D printer to build a prototype part. The prototype did need quite a few adjustments before I was happy. I then sent the files to a 3D laser cutting company who cut the 3 10mm plates out for me. I figured this was a lot easier and cheaper than buying a big piece of 10mm steel and then hacking and slashing it out with my grinder. I did this off camera. There was a little bit of fine tuning to get this to sit right. I'm now going to weld it up just so that it's nice and stiff. Okay, I'm just going to reinstall the bracket, just so you can see how it goes in. So basically you can see it's 3 leaves. This is actually a top and a bottom. Probably can't see on camera, but it's slightly tapered towards the bottom.
So just removing the calipers right now off this Beetle, which are crusty. I'm going to leave the hoses and the cable connected for now, just so that it doesn't make a mess, if I can. There we go. Just leave that there for now. Oh my god, it must be my birthday. Coat hangers, metal coat hangers. My wife hates them, but they are brilliant for using as paint hangers or just generally hanging stuff up. Stuff just in case. There we go. All right, off. So this hub's going to get replaced with the 112 5 PCD, same as the front, which is off the later Passat. The reason for that is to facilitate the discs. That means I don't have to re-drill the new discs, which come off the Passat on the rear and the Audi at the front. Also, the wheels I'm using wouldn't allow for a 5x100 stud pattern either. Test fitting the rear disc. Coincidentally, it's got the same centre board, which is nice. So for comparison, here's the original Beetle one again. Quite a significant increase in diameter. So that'll equal more stopping power with the inclusion of the new calipers, which I have right here. I was originally going to use the R36 calipers off the same vehicle that the front calipers come from, but unfortunately they're actually electronic handbrake. The Beetle doesn't have electronic handbrake, and I looked at what it takes to convert, which is simple enough, but it is quite an expensive kit, and it just felt unnecessary. But it just so happens, after doing a little bit of searching around, that the Skoda, the same front brakes, but it has rear brakes that use a cable. This is the caliper carrier, and here's the caliper itself. As you can see, it's got all the spring gubbins to have a cable, which looks very similar to the Beetle actually. We'll just offer up the bracket for now, just to see how we're travelling. Seems like that backing plate's in the way, so I'll have to cut it off. So I'm not fussed about damaging the hub or the hub carrier, because all of that's going to be replaced. So just like I did with the front calipers, this is the carrier, and this opening between here and here I'm using as the two limits of my disc. So the center line of these 2 points should be the center line of the discs, centered like that. Now just quickly put the caliper bracket on, and just notice that the bolt holes for the Beetle, or the original bolt holes, line up with the caliper bracket of the Passat. They're different bolt sizes, but the holes line up. So it's been a month or so since I last touched the rear brakes. In that time I managed to get the rest of the parts here, and as you can see I did paint the wheel arches to the video you guys did see. So having had some time to think about it, and I've also now got the brake pads, which you can see mocked up here on the caliper carrier. My original thought of mounting it to the direct location on the Beetle swing arm itself didn't seem like a good idea, because I'd need to chop quite a bit of material from the swing arm bracket or the caliper carrier itself, which I don't like the idea of chopping brake systems. So my plan now is to install the carrier adjacent to the bracket rather than on top of it. So as you can see here, it'll fit approximately here, which will just require a flat type of plate to go across the back. Just going to use the old CAD, old school analog CAD, cardboard aided design, and come up with a bracket. The great thing about making paper templates, you don't have to get it right the first time. Here's the final template, which is copied off the other template, but I use punches to make the holes perfectly round, and then I retest it just to make sure everything's in correct location.
With the paper template now complete, I used a simple 2D CAD program to put the design into digital form. I can now send this file onto a laser cutting service so I can get the part cut out for me. So it's taken a bit of effort and a bit of head scratching. The front brakes are in and done, which is great. The rear brakes, I just need to order the bracket from the laser cutting company. Hopefully that'll be here by the next episode, and then I can just show you guys how I mount up the rear brakes. Thanks again for watching. Really appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe.